Hi, Nika.
Hi, JP.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You
Well,
too.
thank you. I appreciate you being here, and I really have a lot of things I want to ask you about.
All right.
So, can you tell me about growing up in Slovenia? What was it like for you?
Well, we're here to discuss sports, so I'm going to tell you how it was like for me with sports. I started skiing when I was 2. I was very, very lucky to have parents and grandparents who supported me to do and try any sport that I wanted to. So since young age, I swam when I was 3. I skied when I was 2. That was the first thing that I did.
2 years old, you were skiing.
2 years old, I got my first skis.
That's amazing.
And they just go. So I was really lucky to have the opportunity to try probably every sport that I could possibly imagine, from skiing, swimming. I trained karate, I trained volleyball, I was the captain of the volleyball team. I trained football with my cousin and his friends like for years. And like it was just moments of like happiness when it involved sport. Like it was always fun.
That's amazing. Was that something that was also encouraged in school or just by your parents?
Our schools are really good when it comes to that. We have like at least 4 to 5 hours of PE in a week, and also extra in the afternoon. So it's encouraged by the government to do sports and to do our best. We just celebrated our National Sports Day yesterday.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations to that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know that came after winning the Tour de France.
Yes.
From Slovenia.
That's another congratulatory thing.
That
Yes.
was a big one because it was a double win. So this is when we get proud. We are super proud about our athletes.
Yes.
Because we have many Olympic athletes. We are so small, but we have great athletes.
Yeah,
in skiing.
Slovenia is a wonderful country for athletes. In
Yeah.
every sport that I either pay attention to or that I watch on TV, it seems like there's always a Slovenian athlete.
Yeah, we are involved. Wherever you look at, like we have a team. You know that one of our best hockey players is playing for Canada.
I didn't know that.
No?
No, I didn't know that.
Like he was top of the top last year.
Really?
Yeah, just forgot his surname.
Yes. I don't follow hockey very much, but that's interesting.
Yeah, the only thing we don't play is American football.
Yeah, you
not
should.
a lot. Not a lot. We have.
You might get crushed.
We have few clubs. We have a few clubs and the tournaments
Yeah.
as well.
We know in Dubai there's an American football league,
Yeah, I
and
know.
I do know that there's a Slovenian on one of the teams.
No way.
Yeah, a good friend of mine that coaches.
Well, I'll tell you something. We have 2 Slovenian coaches for hockey here in Elaine.
Do you really?
We do.
Wow, Slovenia is like
We
ruling
do.
such a small country and
We're
so
small,
many.
but we're
Yeah.
like we go everywhere.
Right. Well, one thing about you that's always been interesting, we've known each other about 5 years now, is your dedication to bodybuilding. Is that the right thing to say about you? Because I know you compete, whether it's bodybuilding or what do you consider yourself a competitor in?
Wow.
I think bodybuilding because that's what
Yeah, it's bodybuilding. Yeah, it's bodybuilding. I wanted to do powerlifting as well, but it's just bodybuilding for me is more fun because I'm in a fitness category, so it involves all these crazy stunts.
Yeah.
And we have like the most fun with the costumes. So
costumes and then your aerobic ability
Yeah.
and gymnastics.
it's very, very like interactive sport.
Yes.
Like even with you can get so much from the crowd because you have a performance, so you can involve them, and it's just like more fun, more relaxed.
The first time that I saw you, I think, was in the gym, and we're lifting weights, and I see you in the corner, and you're on one hand, and your whole body is propelled into the air, and you're balancing yourself on one hand. Then you leap up and do a backflip, and then a roll, and then on the other hand, with your legs going like in a flag. I'm just like completely amazed that the human body could operate that way, especially with bodybuilding incorporated with it.
Yeah, bodybuilding is a very stiff sport.
Yeah, usually they're stiff, right? So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of flexibility. At least.
But this is most of the like misconception, yes, about it. Bodybuilders are pretty like flexible.
Yes.
They have to be. They have to be.
Well, you know, the golden era of the 70s, right, with Arnold Schwarzenegger making it popular, that's when I got interested in it. And I felt like those bodybuilders were very athletic, looking back now.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, they seemed to be more rigid and stiff, where they weren't as flexible. But now you start to see the incorporation of body shaping, competitive, not only bodybuilding, but I can't think of the right term, but what
functional
you do,
fitness.
a functional fitness type of
Let's
competition.
Say functional.
Yeah, that's what I like. I think that's just very impressive, because not everybody's going to get into bodybuilding to be competitive on a stage, but you can get into bodybuilding to be fit and in shape.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. And so much more to just look good, you know.
Yes.
I think this is when things changed, because people notice that if you're too big and you're too stiff, it's very hard to operate every day. Like day-to-day life, you're heavy, you're stiff, you don't feel good because you cannot turn, for example.
Yeah.
So now things are getting a little bit better. Also the knowledge.
Yes.
The knowledge about.
I think that's incredible to point out, because like even for me, I mean, you know me well, where I love to be active outdoors and hike and things like that. So weights are incorporated with strength and flexibility, and
Yes.
I incorporate some Pilates.
Exactly.
But I like to have an all-around fitness, and what I see you doing competitively is kind of what interests me. So do you remember what age you were when you first got interested in weights? Even though you were in sports and skiing, when did you get into weights?
My first day at the gym was when I was 16 years old, probably. It was a school active day. Not active day, but just one of those classes. But we had to change the gym floor for fitness because they were renovating it. And the teacher was showing us around, and he knows how much I like the sports, so he's like, let me challenge you.
Yeah.
So he put me on a leg extension. How much can you lift?
And that was your first time?
That was my first time.
Wow.
And I just enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed it. But at that time, that was high school, I was the captain of the volleyball team, so it was like unimportant. But later on, when I started college, I just didn't want to sit behind the computer. So when I started college, it was architecture. So it's like, okay, eight hours in the school, sitting behind the computer, going home, and again you're sitting behind the computer or behind the desk, and you're just stuck. And that's when I just lost it and said, I need to do something. I need to do something. And my knees started to hurt that time. So after visiting a doctor, she said, you have two options: either swimming or fitness gets stronger around your joints. And that's what I did. I went to the gym when I was 18.
And you felt that improved your joint strength?
Definitely. No pain since then.
That's amazing.
Pain-free.
That's great.
And like that was the time that I started enjoying training.
Yeah.
Like, it was really good. But then one of my friends took a glimpse of me. He said, why don't you compete? I'm like, what, where, how?
So that's what sparked your interest to compete, is one person
one
suggested
person's suggestion, yes. He was competing. He was competing in 2009 and 10, I think. And then in 2011, it was my time to step on the stage.
That's amazing.
For the first time.
So when did you move to the UAE?
I moved to the UAE, so exactly 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Exactly 5 years ago.
Wow, from Slovenia.
From Slovenia. I was sent to Abu Dhabi first, and then on today's day, exactly 5 years ago, I came to Alain.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been to quite a few competitions in different countries since you've lived here.
Yes, I did.
Where have you competed at?
So I actually put my competitions to hold for 10 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
10 years almost.
But you never stopped training, obviously.
I never stopped training.
And it seems like you are always preparing for a contest, even if you didn't.
I
would see you trim down, and you would fast and get really lean, and then you would try to put size on?
Yeah, I always have this in my mind. You have to be ready.
Yeah, to keep yourself almost
keep
like
yourself,
a habit.
Yes, it's a habit, of course, but also you have to keep the goal. So eventually I know that I will compete again. Like right now with the COVID and everything, the traveling is very difficult. But I know one day for sure I'll step on the stage, and I want to be in shape to start my prep in shape, because it's such a difference when you start your prep in shape knowing that you're going to compete, or when you start your prep like out of nothing. It's hard.
I can imagine. So what countries have you been to compete though? I remember you went to a few contests and you competed.
Yeah. So we had Spain in 2018. That was the first time after 2011. And then we had last year, so 2019 was first Arnold, Australia.
Australia. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the year, 2019, I went to Mumbai, India.
India.
Yeah.
Did you have some, what was your best showing? Like what was your best placement so far?
So I have two second places in the amateur.
Okay.
So I was this close to the pro card.
That close to the pro card.
This close.
Which is still a goal of yours, obviously.
Goals.
Yes.
This close. I'm going to make it happen. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you haven't given up. There's a lot of people that would probably give up after that many contests where they're like so close and they go, okay, maybe it's not for me. But what I've noticed from you is that it just makes you that much more motivated to know you're that close to making it.
I'll be honest with you.
Tell me.
I follow so many people who competed for so many times and did not turn pro or win a show. One of them, huge inspiration, Bojana Vasiljevic. She competed 28 times before she got her pro card, and that was in the 90s.
And she never gave up.
She never gave up, and now she's always top 5.
See, that's an inspiring story.
That's like, you don't get it right away. There are few people who get it right away, and they get it right.
You know, no matter what profession, I think, you look at actors, right? There's people that go on all these auditions to get a part in a movie or a play or whatever it might be. And if they give up after they're rejected 2 or 3 times, then they never know what their potential would be.
Definitely.
So the same
and
thing.
And they just get better with age. This is with bodybuilding. Like with bodybuilding, you have to know that the muscle maturity needs time. And getting into that shape that it might potentially win. Not that you like, because you never like yourself enough, let's say. It's always work in progress. When it comes to bodybuilding, you're never happy with yourself. And this is also one of the things, like, it can fire back really, really fast when it gets to the point of coffee addictions.
That's right.
No, when it comes to the point of self-image.
Yeah.
After the competition, it's so hard to cope with it.
True.
Because you've been so lean and you've been so light and you feel so accomplished, like, and then you have to go back to normal life. Usually competitors take off for about 2 weeks before the competition because it gets a little bit hard.
Yeah, difficult. Yeah.
It gets a little bit hard. You have to reduce the stress and factors from outside if you're not able to cope with them.
Sure.
So when you have to go back to real life and food and life, you know, family and friends, it's always around food. So getting back to that, it can go pretty bonkers. So that's why you saw me a few times and I was like
angry,
hangry. But you also saw me like when I was happy and chubby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so.
Right. Well, you know, that's one thing about, I've been around bodybuilding for a long time in my life because it's one of my first interests that got me out of being shy. And even though I didn't turn into a professional competitor, I've got a lot of friends that do it. And one thing that I've always noticed is that it's so much more than physicality. It's the emotional drain, like you mentioned, with being hungry, when your friends and family want to go out to dinner and then you can't eat the things that they're eating and you have to be very disciplined and maybe it affects your mood. That's something that not everyone can just jump into and think it's going to be an easy factor. You're almost alone a lot, I would assume.
Yeah, it can be a lonely sport.
Yeah.
It can be a lonely sport, but you know, some people prefer it just to reduce the stress part. For me, that's not an option. Um, like, I consider myself being most of the time alone, but I like to hang out with my friends. I like to eat outside, so I made it work. Like,
Yes.
if you want to make something work, if you want to hang out with your friends but still compete, you will make the right choices for yourself.
So let me ask you, whenever you've gone out with friends and you've been really disciplined with your diet and you bring your own food with you.
No.
No, you don't do
No,
this?
I don't
You don't do
that.
this?
I think I'm the only person
That
who
doesn't do it.
who doesn't do it.
Okay.
But we go to the restaurant and I look at the waiter and I'm like, write this down. You're gonna need it.
Okay, so you make good choices from the menu that they offer you.
I make good choices, and I make sure that I don't overspill with my calories. So, for example, if we're outside and the menu has a salad, I'll probably go with the salad. I'll ask them if they can add a little bit more protein, or I'll ask them to remove cheese, for example, because we know it's very high caloric. So, like, there are some sacrifices, but at the end of the day, it's important who you're sitting with to enjoy the time with them. Although they look at you like,
I can imagine.
please eat.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have my goals and you're my friend, so you should support me, right?
That's
So
right.
you can laugh at me whatever you want.
Well, you know, also the discipline factor for you, you're never tempted when you're at a restaurant with your friends and you say, yeah, you know what, today I'll just order whatever I want because I want to be that person.
It switches really fast. So when I have that goal in my mind, I switch really fast. But I'll give you an example. Just before India last year, one of my good friends had her birthday, and we went to Dubai for 3 days. And I was just like, you know what? It's her birthday. I have my goals, but I'm still gonna have that cake.
Yeah, good for you.
Good for me, good for her. Everyone's happy. I'm happy.
Yes.
And then you just make it work.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not the best decision. It might set you back, but the mental aspect, it just pushes you forward. But yeah, it's always funny, and every prep is different.
Yeah.
Every prep is different. Different emotions, different circumstances. For example, Spain, I competed with sprained ankle. So I couldn't even stand in heels for about a week before the competition. That was fun.
But all your routine is gymnastics based as well, not just posing.
So in Spain, I did just posing. I did figure instead of fitness because of the ankle.
Well, what's the difference? Fitness and figure?
So fitness is with gymnastics. The total score is 2/3 goes to the gymnastic routine, the free routine, and then just 1/3 is the comparison round.
Oh, okay.
So you actually don't have to be super lean, super shredded, but of course it's always better if you're a little bit lighter, especially for the fitness routine. It really shows. If you're lighter, things get way easier when it comes to handstands, when it comes to jumping around the stage, and also other things, but you're more prone to injuries.
Sure.
And that's what happened actually. And then I did Arnold. Arnold was with a fitness routine, so that was good. That was injury free. And then I did India, and India was after a car accident with a whiplash, so my neck hurted and I busted my shoulders practicing gymnastics. So I have a torn shoulder and I still competed there.
Wow. Ouch.
I still pushed it. And the thing was there that they didn't even know if there will be fitness. And I was preparing for fitness with my shoulder, and then 4 weeks before the competition they said there will be no fitness. So we switched.
So you switched.
We switched to figure right away.
But you were ready for it.
I would say I could be better if I knew, because I would use that time for the fitness routine for recovery,
Right.
different type of training, because like for the fitness routine, I need 2 hours for just fitness routine, and then you have to include the weights, which is another 45 minutes, and then on top of that cardio.
So question, I know with bodybuilding, usually bodybuilders like the day or two before, they dehydrate themselves quite a bit for thinner skin. What about the difference between fitness and figure with dehydration? Is it the same or?
No, fitness, you have to be hydrated. You have to be hydrated, but still we pull back a little bit.
Okay.
But usually it's just after the show, you just get electrolytes in, because if you do dehydrate, it like you're prone to injuries, and it can happen so fast.
Right.
Like you never know.
Interesting. You know, let me just change the topic quickly. Something that I wanted to ask you about. One of the reasons I had you here was, you know, there's a lot of friends of mine that are women, right? And they always ask me, because I've been in fitness for so long, or I serve with them in the military, where they might have been fit most of their life, but maybe they have their ups and downs where they've let themselves go and they want to get back in shape.
Yeah.
And there's always like this misconception, I feel, with women, that if they get into the gym and lift weights, that they're going to become big and strong and very masculine, and they're going to put size on no matter what they do. Do you find this to be a misconception? Does it aggravate you as a woman that people feel that way about weights and women?
It does. It does. Because let's say the days of aerobics are gone. It's like gone. We need to have a certain amount of muscles, especially women, because osteoporosis comes after 60. So it's like you need to have a sufficient amount of muscle to hold you up together, okay?
Yes.
And it's actually better for every woman to train with weights. They don't have to lift crazy weights,
right.
But just pick up something heavy. You're picking up kids, like from age of 20, 25.
Sure.
They're heavy. Like you have to train for that. You have to train for life. So it's not about training to lose weight, to look better. That's the consequences, I would say.
You know, what frustrates me, though, is that there's been many of my friends and family that no matter what I tell them, no matter what you show them, no matter how many articles you read or how many pictures you show them, they still won't believe what they already initially had believed from the beginning, which is, I feel like if a woman lifts weights, she's going to be masculine, and I don't want to be that way. So again, no matter what you show them, they won't change their mind, like the closed-minded person. And so whenever you provide an example, like for you as an example, how lean you are and how athletic you are and feminine, when you compete in these contests, you have to display, as a woman, the figure concept, the aerobic strength, and the athleticism. And I think that's just a great example. But yet you have people that still won't buy into the example because in their mind they think this is the old myth that it falls into. So I don't know how else to change somebody's mind. Do you find with your clients, right?
Yes.
That people come to you as a woman, that they feel that no matter what you teach and show them, that they go, no, I don't want to do this because I don't want to look like a man. Does that happen?
It does. It does happen. But you know how you convince them when they're able to do more. Like you go slowly. You don't tell them why you're doing some things.
Right.
But you just drive them slowly down the path, and then one day they see how much they're capable of.
Yeah.
You're
pushing through barriers.
You're pushing through barriers but you don't tell why.
Okay.
You just go through it, and then when they reach a point where they're able to do more, they do it, and then you tell them, there you go. There you go. But there will always be people who won't like lifting weights, and that's okay, because we're not all the same.
Right. Interest, desires, goals.
Well, you have to understand that the goal can have different paths.
Yeah.
But for the goal of looking leaner, better, and being stronger, you will need to use load. so
Yes.
that means weights. Body weight is usually enough, to be honest, because mostly here in UAE I work with clients that are at home, so they don't have equipment, they don't have a gym.
Right.
So we work with body weight, and they're still able to push through the
And
through
get
the
show
obstacles,
results.
and it
then
shows results exactly. We still lose weight, we
Okay.
still achieve a lot of things. I have a mother of 5. She can do a 6-minute plank.
Really, 6 minutes.
6 minutes. I can't do a 6-minute plank.
Really?
She is a mother of 5.
Strong core.
Strong core.
And she had to obviously train to get to that point. She just didn't do it from the beginning. So
She did it from the beginning.
that's like abnormal.
She did it from the beginning.
Must be something in the water.
I was shocked. It was something in the water. Yeah, we have. There are a few highlights here in UAE when people surprise you, and they surprise themselves as well, and it's a happiness moment for both of us.
So, okay, if you have a woman that comes to you right now, no matter where she's from, and she says, look, I don't want to compete, but I would like to lose some weight, look trim, feel good in my clothes, and be somewhat athletic to do more outdoor activity, where would you direct her? Like, how would she start? Where would she go? And what would you recommend that she would do for a workout?
For a workout?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I would check the basics, the basic movements,
Sure.
because
Like functional type things.
functional type of things, because you just said if she wants to go out, hike around, and train for that, I would for sure try to implement full body movements, either with weights or without weight, and just try to improve the overall mobility without the load, with the load. So for sure some cardiovascular, but not the boring stuff on treadmill, that's for sure, because I feel that's a waste of time for someone who's not a bodybuilder. To improve an overall fitness and to improve life, you should train for life. So the most basic movements are reaching to the cabinets, for example.
Overhead type
yes,
movements.
overhead type movements. Picking up stuff from the floor, for example. If you pick it up with a hunched back, this is not the best thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So getting into that squat position or a lunge position, especially for mothers when they are pushing the baby around. There's so many different things. The mothers usually hold their baby in one side, so they're all crooked.
Yes.
So just balance out the.
I do that when I carry groceries, by the way.
There you go. But you also.
But I catch myself.
So we train with unilateral load. So one arm is holding the dumbbell, kettlebell, walk around. I actually do. I do name that exercise. We're going shopping.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. We're going shopping. Usually I use that word.
That's funny.
But yeah, for someone to improve the overall fitness, I would say full body movements. And for someone to improve conditioning, you just load exercise after exercise, short breaks.
When you have a client come to you and they've worked out with you the day before and they're sore, and they equate that soreness to pain, and they tell you, I can't work out today, I can't train because I feel pain. How do you explain to them the difference of pain and soreness, which is probably quite common?
Well, for them it's mostly pain, especially the first 2 weeks. But like they get to know the feeling of being sore, especially when they're training with me. It usually goes away, but mostly we push through. Like even if they're kind of complaining or not being sure if they want to train the next day or after 2 days, I always say it like that, like it will go away when you start pushing blood through the muscles again.
Okay.
Because it does go away.
Yes.
And usually they're fine with that, but I don't really explain much about the chemistry behind it. Most of them is not really interested into it, so it's just more about okay, we're gonna do because you know better.
Right.
And they accept it after a while. Like they get sore, but after 2-3 weeks, you shouldn't be as sore as you were before.
I'm interested, aside from that, when you have a client come to you for the first time and they tell you that they've had injuries in the past, not soreness or pain, but an injury, whether it's a surgery or recovery from that, do you evaluate them and their movements functionally and then say, okay, what can you do, what can't you do, and then build a workout plan around that injury? Or do you try to find a way to get them to push through certain exercises that they can tolerate?
No, definitely not the last thing. There's always, we do assessment first. Any good coach will do assessment first. I have a 16 pages questionnaire for every client.
16 pages?
Yes.
That sounds fun.
And
that sounds like a lot of fun.
It's like going back to school. No, but the thing is that I had so many cases that people forgot they had injuries. They just put it behind. It's like it happened, so it's not there anymore. But it obviously is. There's so many people who forget. They have to tell you stuff about injuries, medication, like specific cases. I can go into one. I didn't know. I trained a girl for 3 years, and I didn't know she had. I didn't know she had herniated discs.
Ooh! Wow. She didn't tell you this in the 16-page questionnaire.
She didn't tell me that. She was like, no, it didn't hurt me until now. Like, but still, it's there. It's there. And
are you doing like squats and deadlifts with her, or trying to?
Yeah, we were.
And I'm sure her form must have been poor.
No, the form was fine. But it's just one of the things that is there and can happen again if you're not careful. We're always careful, but it's better to know prior to that, so you at least know how much you can push a person to a certain point.
Yes.
Because if you've been injured before, it can happen faster. Right. So, yeah, it's super important to tell your coach if you had any injuries anytime, even if you were 5 years old. So, yeah, always assessing people.
You know, and in that assessment, aside from injuries, so from my experience with people, training them or training partners, everyone's different. And so I'm the type of person that typically going to the gym or having a workout routine, I'm very disciplined. Where I question my discipline is when it comes to nutrition, right? But I've met people that are the opposite, where they have no discipline to continue a workout. It's always very emotional based. If they feel horrible today about something, they can't go to the gym. Where I can go to the gym almost like brushing my teeth. It's a habit. Yeah. But these people that I'm talking about can very disciplined follow a nutritional plan. How do you assess, or how do you deal with a client that is one or the other, nutrition wise or with the gym? Do you have different ways to motivate them?
It's not the motivation part, because the motivation part, it always fades away. Like in about 2-3 weeks, everyone loses the motivation.
That's right.
To push a little bit harder. So it's more about creating the habit around that. When it comes to nutrition, very important. It doesn't matter how slow it goes.
Yes.
For example, I know people who will go into new habits like in 2 weeks, and they will keep them for so long, and they can go with it, and there's no problem. I have other people who need maybe 2-3 months to get into new habits, so new habit.
2 or 3 months to finally establish a routine.
To establish routine.
And others that can do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it all depends on the person. It all depends on the circle around them, what's going on in their lives. It's so individual.
Yeah.
Like everything is very like specified for each person. But what I noticed works the most is being accountable to someone. Like even for me, having someone who is not always on top of your head, but just there, like to listen, to know what's going on, to know that you will not judge them for their choices, because this is the biggest fear of everyone is to fail yourself, to fail others.
Yeah.
And this is also a stressor. So if we remove that, if you have a coach who will remove that stress by not applying pressure with, you have to do it, you have to pull it together, but you know what, it's fine, it's just one day out of 365.
Right.
You enjoyed. For example, we had a case last week. A girl ate a whole cake.
Good on her.
In 2 days. And you know what? I ate a whole cake in 2 days. A whole cake in 2 days. After Arnold, I ate a whole chocolate cake.
In 2 days.
16 pieces. In 2 days. And you know what? Did you enjoy it? That's 2 days? You enjoyed it. It was fun? Okay. You pull back? Let's go back. Let's go back to normal.
Yes.
You just have to go back. That's the point.
Like a reset.
That's the point, yes. A reset.
Yeah.
But if you're not able to do it on your own, that's when the coach jumps in.
Yes.
But it's all about just establishing the habit and follow through.
Sure.
Long term.
So, okay, with nutrition. So, for me, I've experimented in my life with different diets, but I'm not a diet fan. But what I've been very good at is a lifestyle where I would say most of my life I've been very disciplined about being watchful for what I eat during the week, and I would at least have a weekend or a day of the weekend where I don't care. And then I would go right back to being very disciplined during the week, and it's worked well for me. And there's been books that have come out about that with lifestyle, body for life, and all that type of thing. How do you feel about it? What's your favorite thing to do when it comes to your nutrition? How do you monitor yourself?
I like to eat.
Yes. That solves it all.
That strict thing during the week, no, that does not apply to me.
Oh, I have to, because I will eat everything and anything.
I can do that, but my catch is not to buy anything that might harm me during any day of the week.
Sure.
So, for example, if I have chocolate in my apartment, it will be gone in a day.
Yeah.
That's one-on-one. Everyone knows. If I have a certain type of food that triggers me, it will go.
You won't have it around you.
I just don't buy it.
Yeah. You know, some of my friends find that weird about me when they come over here, because I do the same thing in my apartment.
Don't have anything.
Anything in the apartment. They're looking in the cabinets, looking in the refrigerator, and like, where's all your food?
Let's go to JP's cabinet.
Nothing. I don't, because I know if I have the things that you've mentioned, I'll eat them. Because I grew up in a household, no offense to my family because I know this, if you had chocolates and chips and cookies and crackers and it was in the pantry, you know, whenever you were bored, what did you do? You went there and you found something to eat.
Oh, okay.
So I'm undisciplined with that. If I know it's in the refrigerator, I'm not disciplined enough to go, I can't touch the cake today. That's for Saturday.
Okay.
If I'm bored at night and it's not Saturday, I'll go eat it. So I best just not have it in my apartment or in my place.
You see,
that's how I have to survive.
You see, funny thing, you had that in your pantry. For me, the trigger is I didn't have it. Because I came from a different background.
Sure.
So it was limited access. I just laughed with my mother the other day. I finally figured out that I'm 30 years old and that I can, on my own, I can buy myself a chocolate that I usually got just for Christmas.
Now you can buy it any time of the year.
Buy it anytime.
That's not a good thing. What do you mean? That's not a good
thing?
thing?
Not a good thing at all. So what I did is I bought it and it was gone in 10 minutes because the flashback was I will not get it until Christmas.
So let me finish it now, right?
Let me finish it now because it's limited access.
Yes, I understand that.
So that's why I don't have it. Like I just don't buy it.
Wow.
And it triggers me.
That's
like,
good.
The foods, they trigger me. And now it's switched because I don't get the food that I used to eat at home when my mother cooked or my grandmother. So anytime I go home, they already know they have to wait with me with apple strudel, baklava.
Wait for the cream.
No, we don't have.
I'm making a movie reference. Sorry. In Glorious Bastards, there's a famous scene with apple strudel. Sorry. Yes. I can't help it when I hear apple strudel. I have to say that. But
Yeah. So those things now trigger me. Like I can easily survive that week that I'm at home just on apple strudel.
you hit something that was very important too, is the upbringing, because everyone comes from
Yes,
different upbringings
different.
and backgrounds. So the way you think as an adult usually is triggered back to something in your childhood.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And this is, for example, this is what I'm facing here. The diet culture in UAE just started a few years ago. So the diets are rigid. They're very restrictive, and they don't apply to their lifestyle. So UAE cuisine is based on rice, carbs, and meat. Bread, yes. And the dietitians are taking all of that away from them.
So they don't know how to survive, probably.
They are like, we don't know what to eat, and they're like starving. And I'm like, and every time I get a new client in, did you try a diet before, or did you go to dietitian? And everyone was like, yes, we went. We lost 15 kg, but we gained 10 back on those 15. And I'm very proud of myself because I had the opportunity to work with people and to educate them. They can basically diet with the local food.
Yeah, it's all about moderation, maybe?
It's all about the moderation. Like, you have to take it easy.
Yes.
Also junk food, but...
You know, that's an important part, not only for the UAE, but even, let's say for me, I grew up in the southern United States, right, where fried food and plenty of it is very common. Well, it was very typical for me to have a plate of food in front of me, and I would rush to eat the first plate, knowing that there's more in the kitchen so I could go back and get a second plate. And my eyes were always bigger than my stomach, as we said. But then I met friends of mine that grew up in a different environment where their families encouraged them to eat until they were full or content and stop. So whenever I would go out to dinner with some of these friends and they would do that, I'd be like, what do you mean you're done? You still have food on your plate. And I used to think that was just a horrible choice. But as I got older and I struggled with my weight and I watched other people struggle, I realized how important that is. To be very content and to eat until you're full or
to
just
realize
enough.
When you're full,
and have multiple meals during the day instead of 3 giant meals during the day. Because, you know, you hear breakfast is the most important part of the day. I can't tell you how many times when I was a young man where I would eat this hearty lumberjack breakfast and I would be sluggish all day.
We didn't.
I did. It's syrup and biscuits and gravy, and I would be sluggish, lethargic. Until I got older and I learned to have more meals a day, a lighter breakfast, then I had more energy, like oatmeal and brown rice or something. Yeah, but it took me into my 20s to realize that because my eyes were always fixated on what looked good, and I wanted more of it, like gluttony.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm from Eastern Europe, so for us it was like limited amounts, let's say. But
that's why everybody in Eastern Europe seems to be, whenever I've visited so many places, a little bit more healthy, a little bit more fit as far as appearance goes.
Honestly, I think it's just the upbringing part.
Yeah.
Because Eastern Europe, we don't have a lot of options when it comes to junk food.
Right.
Like we just opened our first KFC 5 years ago, maybe.
That is going to be the end of the Eastern European bloc, then.
Well, we had McDonald's since forever, but that was mostly just birthdays, special occasions, eating out, special occasions. So for me, I grew up like partially on a farm, like with my grandparents 3 months in a year, and the breakfast was always the same. Either was a piece of bread with cheese, or a piece of bread with eggs, or eggs with bacon, and everything was always with pork fat. Everything was fried.
Yeah.
But we were never fat.
Right.
Like even my uncle, he used to eat like 8-10 eggs for breakfast.
Wow. Is it because of the active lifestyle in conjunction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like there wasn't moderation, but there had to be some moderation, right? You couldn't have eaten until you were...
No, you had to finish. Like if they put it on your plate, you have to finish.
You had to finish.
That's
Same.
it.
Same with
you
me.
have to finish. There's no other option.
That's it. Finish it.
And you have to finish it because you know you will be eating lunch after 4 hours. You'll be hungry by then. Like, that's a no-brainer. You have to finish.
So, aside from the nutrition, back to the physicality part of it. Like, when I was a young boy, I went and did a bench press after I'd worked out a while, and I found that I was very strong with my upper body. But I didn't train my lower body very much, and I got embarrassed the first time I did a squat because I thought I could squat more than I bench press, but I never trained that way.
Okay.
And that embarrassment taught me a lesson to teach myself to become better and condition myself, right? Mm-hmm. And then I applied the same thing with running and hiking, where I started off poorly and I became very good at it. Do you have like some go-to or favorite exercises that you love no matter where you train or what you do? Are there some of your favorite exercises, or what are they? And for what reason?
Wow, okay. Well, the ego part, of course.
Yeah.
The ego part loves squat, deadlift. I like to be strong.
Because your legs are very powerful and very athletic.
I like to be strong. I like to think that I'm strong. And my legs were always strong. Like, my first day in the gym, I was squatting 80 kilos.
Kilos.
Yeah, so what's that in...
Ooh,
times 2, right?
Yeah, like 160, I think.
Yeah. So, and it's just, it gives you that content that you are like strong, better than everyone else, maybe.
Sure.
So squat will be always one of my go-tos because it's a full body exercise.
If you don't have weights, do you do body weight squats? Do you find them still to be as enjoyable?
Yeah. Well, during the quarantine, I was training at home. I had minimal equipment, 2 kettlebells, 12 kilos, 8 kilos, resistant bands. Yeah. But like, to trigger the muscle to keep working, only you need to have the conscious about the muscle, sure, how to engage it, and then keeping the tension of the muscle throughout the move. So I was doing 4 seconds concentric part, so going down, and 4 seconds eccentric part, going up, 4 seconds, and burns. I did 5 or 8 and I was done. Wow. 5 squats and I was done.
Very creative though. Very creative training.
Well,
especially when you had limited equipment.
But I train mostly with women at their homes without equipment. So we have to find a way to fire up the... I saw people lifting the couch, but I'm like, no, that's like, no, it's like moving all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
That's funny, but I'm sure it worked for some cases.
It worked for some cases,
yeah,
for sure.
But not everyone. Do you have a favorite exercise you did during quarantine, or any kind of creative routine that you did?
Quarantine.
I saw your workouts while you were in quarantine, and they were impressive. And being someone that was in the military for a long time, where I was on ship and we had to be creative because we didn't have, the equipment.
Don't have anything.
It reminded me of that.
Okay.
And you don't have that background, but I saw that when you were doing your training, you creatively put things together that would give you, a great burn, a great workout, and.
Well, you're at home, bored. Yeah. Just it's like, okay, we have to do something, and it's just a love for the training, to push yourself a little bit harder every time.
Yes.
So even at home, the same thing. Let me try this. Let's see how I feel about this.
I find that people that train at home, whether it's a treadmill or they have their resistance bands or kettlebells, make the mistake, at least for me, putting on a TV so they can watch TV while they work out. Because I find what I've witnessed is that the TV ends up distracting them from their workout.
I don't know. I watched barbecue.
You don't watch?
I put on barbecue
something with food.
Shows with food.
That would be even worse for
and
me.
Everything.
Well, everyone, I guess, is different. But I know for me, when I do train in my apartment, I was doing Pilates during the quarantine, and I had resistance bands. I have to literally turn off any distraction. Maybe have music on, just like I would have at the gym, and that's about it. And I dedicate whatever time it is, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that's it, and then I'm done. Because I'm the type of person that's always like training with limited rest between sets.
Oh, okay.
Right? I really have enjoyed that, because if I wait too long between sets and I feel like I've cooled down, my mind drifts.
Yeah, I
right?
know. I'm the same. Like, I don't like to chill. only, of course, when it's weight training, powerlifting. But when it comes to conditioning part, like short breaks. But for me, distractions, they don't matter. I just push as much as I can. Even there's TV on, or if I have songs on. But honestly, I don't get that distractions. Like even in the gym, you probably saw me that most of the time I'm a very bad person. I don't see people around me.
That is true. I've walked up to you many times and be like, Nika, hello. And you're like completely focused.
Yeah.
But, okay, this might be an uncomfortable question, but is that because you're just focused, or because in some places where men can be very intrusive to women in gyms where you just get fed up with it and don't make eye contact? I've heard that from women.
No,
is that true?
For me, not.
No? Okay.
No.
But do you find that to happen with other women?
I found that happen with other women.
Yeah. As a man in the gym, especially doing cardio, I've watched sometimes on a cardio machine women working out, minding their own business, and I'll see so many men try to make conversation with them or say hello, even if they don't know them.
Yeah, it happens.
It's I don't want to say comical, but it is comical to watch it.
It is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm like, did I do that? Am I that guy, or was I that guy? Because that's very frustrating to see sometimes.
I don't know. Perhaps here it can be a little bit more unusual because of the Arab world.
Yeah.
But back home, I think it's easier to approach people. But I think it's not all for inappropriate reasons.
Yeah.
I kind of got used to it since now I look like how I look like. So I get questions, compliments, and I embrace it now. But before that, it was more like, why me? Why do you even come close?
There's you should have a sign that says that.
I actually had a T-shirt.
Like if you have a mask now in the gym.
Don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me on your mask.
Yes. So.
Does it annoy you when you're wearing your headphones and you're in the middle of a gymnastics routine, let's say, or something training, and somebody tries to interrupt you for a question? Why do people not understand the etiquette?
Yeah,
you don't have to be a person that goes to the gym often or train often.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just normal human etiquette, right?
Yes. I've been interrupted during the routine practice. I've been interrupted during squat. Like I had 120 kilos on my...
In the middle of the movement, you were interrupted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think some people still need to learn that that's not the best, the best time to approach someone.
Yeah.
Especially when you are focused in your training. A lot of people go to the gym for the social part. They go with partners. They go with with friends. So I understand that kind of an aspect. But if you see a person is under a load or they're holding something and they are training, leave them alone. Don't approach until like they drop that.
Yes.
They drop that. They take a sip of water. You can go, hey, hi. You can ask questions. But
I've almost gotten into fights before at the gym in my life, not just here in my life with poor gym etiquette. I mean, I've got a million stories, but recently here, I was doing curls and I was putting the barbell down on my last repetition. And before I could set the bar down, there was a gentleman taking the weight off the bar, and I took my headphones off and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to work in." Didn't even ask me. He just started taking the weights off. Now, like I said, I don't rest a lot between sets, so we got into an altercation. He backed away from me, but I've had other people in the past where, they've literally gotten confrontational with me.
Yeah, it happens. Unfortunately, people react differently.
Yes.
But they should understand that if you're using something, that this is your time, and you have the right for it because you paid for it, like they paid for it.
Yeah. But
you have to wait your turn.
Sure.
I usually need around 20 to 30 minutes in a squat rack because warm up sets, and then all the workload, and then deload. I need 20 to 30 minutes just for squats.
So just how you described that with your squat routine and your leg routine, you're very efficient and you're very almost engineering.
Yes.
When it comes to your workout.
The program, I have to be efficient.
Yeah.
It saves time. And also, I know exactly what I have to do.
Injury prevention too, and you get the best out of your...
You get the best out of that 45 minutes.
Sure.
or let's say 1 hour. Like, you don't have to work out for 2 hours per day to get the results. People still think that you need a lot of work, but you just need to be efficient.
Right.
Don't talk a lot. Don't chat around. Don't get distracted. You go in with a plan. Even if you make up the plan when you're sitting in your car and driving to the gym, just have an idea where you want to go and what you want to do, even if it doesn't feel right after it. I had so many cases going in the gym and I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing this exercise. Maybe something is pulling a little bit more and I don't feel comfortable, so I switch it.
Yes.
But that's it. There's not a lot of alterations. I'm gonna do legs, that's it.
Right.
You know exactly what you're going for, and that's...
And the way you describe training and the different types of training, I remember there was a certain way that everyone trained when I first got into weights and bodybuilding, right? And then when I read about Mike Mincer and his heavy training principles, who eventually trained Dorian Yates, and then when Dorian Yates came out with more of the high intensity, high energy, less rest between sets, and he would be done within 30 minutes of a workout because he kept his intensity high the entire time, not spreading it out, where a lot of people, when I started, that seemed to be the common thing, where you did 4 sets of bench press and you had 5 minutes between sets, so you had your maximum strength for each one. It changed the way I looked at training, and it also changed my results and how I was able to have endurance and power at the same time. So I love going back to even old school principles that are very modern even today.
Yes.
And it sounds like you do the same with you and your clients, right?
I do that because the efficiency of this kind of training, it's just probably the best, for everyone to train, to improve, and to live a normal life.
Yes.
So we usually start with the heaviest things after the warm-up, and then just finish it off with conditioning part.
Yeah.
So
incredible.
Worked for me the best. I apply it to my clients because I do what I preach. So
yeah,
that's probably the best.
Do you have a what's your strongest body part?
My legs.
Your legs. Always have?
No brain.
With growing up skiing.
Always. Even, I don't know. I was very good with sprints. But I was never good on the long distance, so endurance was always behind.
Sure.
But explosive things, always.
Your legs.
Yeah, always legs.
And what about your favorite body part to train? Is that also your legs or something else?
It's my back.
Your back?
It's my back.
And why is that?
I don't know.
The feeling you get from...
Just the feeling, but recently, since the injury, I don't feel the same on both sides.
What's your injury? Shoulder?
Yeah, the shoulder. So it's kind of frustrating, let's say, because I don't feel it the same, but I still enjoy the training. Now a little bit more.
How do you work around your injury? Do you have certain things that you avoid doing now?
I was avoiding bench press for a year now, but yesterday, pretty proud of myself, I did a 60 kg bench press for 4 reps.
Good for you.
That was a good one.
Pain-free or?
Pain-free.
Nice. Pain-free,
no consequences today, I'm fine. So that was oh, interesting. But I had so many...
So, have you ever done yoga or Pilates?
I have tried yoga.
And what did you think of it?
How can I say?
It's not for everyone, right?
It's not for everyone, but you can always incorporate it, few movements that you like. For example, I like to hold some poses from yoga.
Yeah.
It's not the meditation part, but it's good for opening the joints and the flexibility and mobility. It does relax me in a way. I think there's different types of yoga. So I know a few people who do it professionally. It's a good way to change it up a bit when it comes to training. It can be difficult. I suffered a few times with one of my friends. She's a yoga instructor, and it was difficult. But I do incorporate, regularly.
Well, that's good. The incorporation, I think, is very very beneficial. I've done that with Pilates. I've tried them all, and I don't like it as its own workout, but to incorporate those things, as you mentioned, I think are healthy and beneficial.
You prefer yoga or Pilates?
Pilates. Yoga seemed to be a little bit more of a cult to me,
Okay.
right? And it seemed to me from when I tried yoga that if you did yoga, that's all you did.
Mm-hmm.
People that did Pilates did other things with it, and they used Pilates to do the things that they loved, whether it's hiking, skiing, something outdoors, an activity, weight training, to loosen up the hips, open up the joints. So, interesting question. Have you had a person that's involved in yoga come to you as a client and wanted to incorporate weight training? And if so, how did they perform?
Yes, they did. They performed well.
Like focus-wise and listening?
Not focus-wise, but they have a different breathing technique. So with the breathing,
interesting.
Yes, and the diaphragm and stuff, they have great mobility, so they're capable of learning movements faster, especially under the load. But the breathing part impresses me, because they have a different way of breathing when they're exercising.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
That's good.
It's good. It's good because you also, as a trainer, training that kind of people, you get something from them, like different experience. So even every client that comes to me, I learn something from them. It's not just the opposite way around.
Yes.
You always get some experience out of it.
Experience, and then you learn new things, right?
Yes.
So, like for me, when I tried Pilates, right? Once I started doing research on Pilates and incorporating some of the exercises, it took me down like YouTube and Google, where I found on a podcast the conversation about what they call brachiating, which is something that helps with shoulder recovery. Okay. So I've had both of my shoulders repaired, and it's been a problem for me as I've tried to rebuild and get back into weights, but I've never given up. I've always continued it, but I've had to work around certain things. The brachiating concept came from a doctor who said, I can take this person, apply this, and they won't have to have surgery for the recovery. And they studied primates like apes and how they climb to the trees and they completely hang, and then climb to the trees. And that movement is something that we as humans should do, but because we've become so sophisticated, we don't have to put our arms above our head a lot.
Funny thing,
right?
I like to hang on the bars.
Hang on the bars.
I'm in the gym.
And I started doing that.
Okay.
And by hanging on a bar, completely dead hanged, and let my shoulders open up, and I did it every day as I worked out, my shoulders started feeling better. Yeah. And I even brought it up to some guys at work, and we started doing it at work. We found some bars at work, and we would hang 1 to 3 minutes, during the day. And it really made a difference. And I've noticed that whenever I have not done it, I start to become more stiff.
Yeah.
And I learned all this from researching Pilates, and then it took me down a rabbit hole on YouTube, and then I found this from a Pilates instructor who was on a podcast.
It was a good rabbit hole.
A good rabbit hole, yes.
It took you to the right place.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah, I had. You said that the modern world and the necessity of having your hands over your head. I have first class example. My mother, she's not able to put her hand over her. She wasn't able to put her hand over her.
From injuries?
No.
What was it from?
Just from the limit of the work.
The movement.
Yeah, the movement. She doesn't do it. She doesn't go over her head.
Yes.
So it was very difficult for her to get back the mobility of the joint.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mobility and functional fitness. We talked about that. That, I don't want to sound egotistical, but when I go back years in my career in the military, I was doing a lot of functional fitness movements and training before I guess it was considered popular, and that's where the ego kind of comes in. But it is true. I've always believed in that for a long part of my training philosophy. Yeah. And I got it sometimes from movies, to be honest with you, or I would see somebody on an interview. Before there was the internet, I would see it on the news, and I would say, man, that's impressive. So something as simple as laying down on the ground flat. Can you get up on your own? And it's something as simple as that. When you're young, you think, you know what, of course I can. That's a normal movement. Yeah. But when people get older and they haven't applied that before and they fall down, they can't get back up. Yes. So I started incorporating drills like that even in my own training, where I lay down completely flat and stand up without the aid of my hands. I find a way to use my legs and my knee to get up and get back down. It's very applicable. Yeah.
It's applicable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you should do those body weight movements.
Very important for your normal day of life.
Yes, exactly. For example, why is squatting important? Because you will always sit and stand.
Yes. So many back injuries of my friends as they've gotten older have been because they improperly pick something up.
Yes, definitely. Funny story. A few years ago, I was assembling a new bedroom in my apartment, and I had a guy coming in, and he was alone, so I had to help. And the way he picked up like that heavy piece of furniture, I got chills, because
improper, incorrect.
Not improper, incorrect, but it's just a movement that he's doing daily. That kind of went through my mind. He's doing that daily, and hernia is like this close.
That close to happening.
Yeah, because when I pick up something, and he noticed that, he's like, you're picking up stuff differently. Because I go from a squat or from a lunge.
Sure.
He noticed that. He's like, you pick up stuff differently. I'm like, yeah, my body is kind of more efficient in this way. So I try to do this with my clients now. The other day we're laughing about doing a one leg deadlift.
Yeah.
And the girl was like, I was so lazy to pick up that stuff. And she showed me, and I picked it up like that. And I said to her, well, but do you understand why you picked it up like that? Because the whole family was observing her, and they were laughing at her how she picked it up, and it was a one-leg deadlift.
Wow.
And then she was like, oh,
that's impressive.
Shocked.
So one-legged deadlift, I didn't see that, but I did see the one-legged squats that you had with some of your clients as a competition.
Oh yeah, we have
pistol squats, I call
pistol
them.
Squats, yeah.
That's impressive, because that's not a normal functional movement with one leg.
It's not a normal functional movement.
No.
That's fun.
It looks fun. I've done them in the past. It is a lot of fun. It's not always easy.
You can do it now.
The first time I learned how to do it, I learned with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
Where I had to hold a kettlebell out and put one leg out, and that was something I tried to incorporate into my training at one point. It was very beneficial for me, especially with the things that I was doing at the time. But then injuries kind of happen, and you have to avoid.
Yeah, you have to avoid some things. Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to the functional fitness and mobility, you mentioned earlier, even with your training, how you work into, like, let's say your squats, your warm up, your mobility, and your flexibility, and then your training.
Yes.
And then your load process, and then how do you cool down, and your post stretch.
There is
so much into it.
So much into it. It's not like you just go into it and you pick something heavy.
You just don't do 4 sets of 15 or 10, and then you're done.
We don't do that anymore.
Right.
Even I would say for a normal person who doesn't have a competitive aspirations, I would say incorporate more body weight.
Yeah.
Body weight and the movements that you're using every day. You can use loads, but don't do isolation. Like bicep curls, fun.
Sure.
It's fine, but go from a bicep curl, go to a shoulder.
Make it all of a functional movement that incorporates everything.
Incorporate everything.
But a lot of times, and I grew up in this environment too, and I know women feel this way, and a lot of men do too, where it's a cosmetic issue, where I want my arms to be toned, so they just do bicep curls.
We all were there.
All were there, and a lot of people still enjoy that.
You grow out of it eventually.
Especially when you learn the things that are, again, applicable and what maybe benefits you to your everyday life.
True.
Right?
True. I would say if you're training, make sure that you're doing something that you like.
Yes.
Like don't force yourself to go to the gym.
So no matter what country you live in, I mean, from the United States specifically, the military, the fire department, police, there's always been a physical fitness test and all the things that I've just mentioned that test your overall fitness. And it's always questionable whether if I run 3 miles for time, is it something that I need to have as a soldier or Marine? Well, now the changes over the last 15 years to incorporate lifting things over your head and squatting a certain way or climbing a rope, all of these things are now factored into physical fitness tests, into the military, police, law enforcement, and fire department, because it's applicable that a fireman might have to lift a person over their head, so they get tested on all these things. In the past, let's say 30 years ago, it was more about how fast can you run, how many push-ups can you do. But now the changes because the scientific
You see,
experiments.
we have a national program for physical fitness for all students.
In Slovenia.
Yeah, in Slovenia, from grade 1 until end of high school. So you have to be in a certain shape, let's say, to pass.
Yes.
To even pass the grade. And this showed up like something really good because they just made a research I think a week ago because of the COVID. Everything was closed. How much kids lost with not moving, with not being able to move. So our program for physical health is super important.
Yes.
So this is like probably one of the best things that we have at home. Just like pushing kids from young age to be physically active.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great.
I think that's the best thing that you can get when you're a kid, because you have the motorical skills, you have the physical skills to push through life, to do whatever you want. Because there's so many people who don't have these options, especially here in Middle East.
Yeah.
Their motorical skills are just bad.
Yeah, because they don't apply them.
They don't apply them. No.
See, even in America, right? You pointed out my flag on my hat. That's a common thing that we did in school as well. And when I was growing up, this is a whole nother story, but when I was growing up, we had those physical fitness tests, and one person was first place, another person was second, and it was brought in front of everyone. Now, when you do this, everyone's got a first place ribbon. Everyone's a winner. That's a whole nother story. But the fact that we still incorporate physical activity, especially in any country, I guess you could say, is hopefully something that continues. Because,
hopefully.
You know, there's a lot of arguments about new generations every time that they are in the house too much, they don't get outdoors enough, and
I agree with that.
I agree with it as well. But one thing I do see, though, is that there are still people in the newer generations that are active and are physically outside, even if they incorporate some of the new things that maybe we question. It's not everyone is just sitting at home on the couch.
No, definitely not.
I think the parents have a big part of it.
Yes. Upbringing.
Upbringing.
Is very important.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, back and forth on sports where you have someone that doesn't enjoy sports on TV, someone doesn't like this sport. But the one thing sports actually do bring to youth is that they find a role model that they want to be like. So when they watch American football, let's say, that young boy or woman goes outside now and takes a football with their friends, and they throw and they run, and you know they're being physically active. So I think that's the influence that it has. Right. And same with you, like when you were growing up in Slovenia with skiing, and look at now the Tour de France with this gentleman that was in the Tour de France.
He's only 21 years old.
20, so he's going to have plenty of Tour de France's to compete in. And I can imagine a young boy or a young girl in Slovenia right now that is probably so excited that someone from their country is being so well renowned.
Definitely.
Now they're on bikes. They're trying to get a cycle.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. We had a big boom with football like years ago.
Soccer. Right? Not American football, but soccer.
Not American football.
Yeah.
Football.
I have to say that, because when you say football and there's an American audience, they're gonna think
they're gonna be like
American
your football, not your football. European football.
Yes.
Super popular, and now we have Luka Doncic for basketball. Super popular. Like basketball got back.
That's good.
We had a few Olympic medals for skiing, so skiing started being popular 3 years ago. So it's always changing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, as long as there's sports, we're always into it.
That's healthy. That's great. Well, Nika, I really appreciate you coming in here and answering some questions and talking about fitness and the things that you love.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And if anybody wants to look up any of your workouts or your training philosophies,
they can find
Instagram or Facebook?
I have both.
Okay.
You can always find me under the name of Crusher Nika.
Crusher Nika.
Yeah, it comes from my surname.
Yeah. Can you show
Can you say my last name? Krušić. That's gonna be.
There you go. Instagram, check her
That's
out.
my Instagram.
Great pictures, great training routines, and some unbelievable gymnastics activity.
Some, just a little bit. I don't have a gymnastic background, so this is...
No, I would never believe that, just watching how you train and the things that you do. So that's just another inspirational thing to hear.
Yeah, I didn't...
That you had to develop from not having it into what you are now.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.